12 years ago, I arrived in Australia with a rucksack and fell in love with this country. When I found myself in technology recruitment in the early days, I was working 5 days in the office, 8 till 6. There was zero flexibility. I couldn't even take my lunch break when I wanted to because they were monitoring when I took my lunch break. There was no freedom, no flexibility. And I noticed that's when I really went through a bad period of anxiety. Like, I was having panic attacks. I remember waking up one day and deciding that this is not how I wanted to continue living my life. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Career Confidence Podcast with myself, Georgie Hubbard. Thank you so much for tuning in today, wherever you are in the world. Now, if you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify and you're watching it, you will notice that my background is a little bit different to what it usually is. And that's because I am currently living and working on the road from my converted Sprinter van. And for those of you that follow me on socials, I posted a picture a couple of weeks ago of me sat in the van doing some work. So this wouldn't be new information if you do follow me. So if you don't follow me yet, please come and follow me. I post a lot on my socials. And it got a lot of interest. I got a lot of people reaching out to me and saying, "Oh, Georgie, I'd love to do this. That's my dream. That's my goal one day." So whenever I get that type of feedback on a post I do, I know that there's interest and I want to serve my audience as best as I can and really take people behind the scenes of what it's taken to get to this point, to have this level of freedom that I have in my life right now, because this wasn't always the case. So by the end of this podcast, you will know the exact steps I took to get to where I am today in my life where I can do this. The advice that I would have for you if you're somebody who wants more freedom and flexibility in their life and potentially do what I'm doing, work on the road, and all the things to consider, because I will say this. Working and living on the road is not all sunshine and rainbows, far from it. It can be really, really challenging at times. And there are certain things that I wish I knew at the start of my journey that would have made my life a lot easier and perhaps less frustrating at times, which I'm going to share with you as well. So before I get into all the tactic strategies and share all of that, I want to just take you back because, as I've said time and time again on this podcast, I never want to just talk about the end result of, "Oh, here I am working on the road." There were some steps, there were some choices, and there were certainly some risks I took to get to this point. Now, I appreciate as well that doing what I'm doing is not appealing to everyone. And that is completely okay. We are all individuals and we've all got a different set of values. And for me, what true success looks like in my life personally is a life that is lived within your core set of values. So taking you right back, I have always been somebody that has really valued freedom. That's always been one of my core values if I really reflect back on my life. 12 years ago, I arrived in Australia with a rucksack and fell in love with this country, knew I wanted to stay. So I decided that I needed to get sponsorship and then residency, which is what led me into recruitment and pivoted me out of skin and beauty. There's a whole other episode in itself for how I did that. But when I found myself in technology recruitment in the early days, I was working 5 days in the office, 8 till 6. There was zero flexibility. I couldn't even take my lunch break when I wanted to because they were monitoring when I took my lunch break. There was no freedom, no flexibility. And I noticed that's when I really went through a bad period of anxiety. Like, I was having panic attacks. I was just not in a really good place mentally. And looking back now with hindsight, understanding myself at a deeper level, I believe that was because I was living a life that was so far out of my values and so far out of alignment. And this is where I got crystal clear. I remember waking up one day and deciding that this is not how I wanted to continue living my life. And because I'd made this shift from leaving all my family and friends and comfort zone in the UK to arrive in Australia, I had the evidence that said to me that you can make tough decisions and you can make it work. So I built quite a lot of confidence from having the courage to take these steps, pivoting into a different industry from beauty into tech, leaving home at 19 and doing a bit of travel when I was younger, arriving in Australia with nothing and making something of myself. So I knew that if I'm prepared to work, if I'm prepared to make some sacrifices, take some risks, that anything's possible. But I also knew that I needed to have a certain level of skill before I stepped out and started my business and really created the level of freedom that I was really seeking. So I stayed in that corporate job in tech recruitment, worked for 2 organizations during that 7-year period, and acquired a lot of skill. And I think this is really step one. If you want to go out on your own, whether that's freelancing, whether that's getting to a position where you can dictate your hours or be a bit picky and choosy with what kind of opportunity you take, you need to become somebody that is in demand or has a certain level of skill, because I see far too many people quitting things before they're really ready. I spent my 20s learning, upskilling, reskilling, acquiring a lot of skills that then enabled me at the age of 28 to start my own recruitment agency. And that was really when the big shift of flexibility truly began. So that's just a really important step, which I just want to pause right there, because if you're somebody right now that's brand new to the workforce, you can't be walking into organizations and say, hey, I want to work remote because I want to go and do a van up and travel up to Queensland in winter. Like, you're going to have to acquire some skills. And this has been 12 years in the making. You know, I've definitely done my time in corporate, done my office days, and sacrificed a lot to get to this point. And that's the key thing that I don't think people speak about enough. So, but the first thing I did is I got super clear. So I knew that the corporate world, office days, Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, was just not how I wanted to live my life. And I made some conscious decisions once I decided that. I decided to sit down one afternoon and really work out what my values were, what was important to me, what an amazing life would look like, how an ideal working day would look. You know, what time would I start work? What time would I finish work? Where am I working? How am I working? Who am I working with? The more clarity you can seek in the beginning, the clearer the roadmap and the path will become. So that is super, super important. So if you're sat there right now thinking, okay, I know that I want more freedom, I know I want more flexibility, well, zoom out and have a look. Okay, what are my skills? What are my strengths? Am I doing really, really well in this organization? Could there be a bit more flexibility that I could request? And if that is not going to be the case, you know that if you want to start thinking about a career change or a career pivot or moving employers to somebody that's going to give you that more flexibility, you've got to start looking now at the job opportunities and the companies that you want to work for. What are they looking for? What are they asking for? What skills do you need to acquire and learn now in order to make the leap when the time comes? So the more prepared you can be on the front end, the easier it's going to be on the back end. So that was a really key piece in my journey. But the van, I guess, came to be 4 years into CH Solutions. So I continued to travel into the city in the early days of CH for the first couple of years. Pam and I were in the city 5 days a week still. Like, we certainly in the early days of CH Solutions didn't have any more freedom. In fact, if anything, I would say we had less freedom because I was working weekends, late nights. You know, I definitely put in the hours and the time to get CH Solutions to a point where we had a number of clients. We were bringing in some money, some deals, and we were able to pay ourselves a salary and basically, you know, pay our bills and actually live off our business. So that took a couple of years to get to that point. And then just before COVID, I moved to the Gold Coast. It was always been a dream. I love Queensland. I love the weather. Being a Brit, growing up watching Home and Away, I certainly fell in love with the Australian beaches and the lifestyle that Queensland offers. So I knew that one day I wanted to experience living in the Gold Coast. And I lived on the Gold Coast for 2.5 years during COVID. Wasn't actually planned. I literally moved to Gold Coast and 3 months later COVID hit. So it was probably a good move in hindsight. So I lived on the Gold Coast for 2.5 years and had the most amazing time. It was challenging during COVID to run the recruitment business and not being able to fly back and forth because obviously we couldn't travel. And then that kind of, I guess, led me on to thinking, I'm losing my freedom here. I feel like I'm kind of feeling a bit stuck and stagnant. So that was when the idea of van life came about. And I was on Instagram and I was looking at all these key accounts and following people who were doing up vans. And I said to my husband, what do you think about this? Is this something we could look into doing? And I'm a big believer that when you put an idea out into the world, if it's meant to be, things will align. And as soon as we said, let's look into it, the perfect van came available because we knew we had to have a certain van because my husband's 6'4", so he wanted to be able to stand up in the van. So the perfect van became available. Then we found these two amazing entrepreneurs that were just started their business and we were their first customers. So they were like delighted to take on this project to do up the van. And we just started meeting the right people at the right time with the right contacts. And within a 6 months time frame from actually thinking about doing van life, we then 6 months later had a finished van. And all of a sudden it was like, right, well, off we go. So we rented out our place in the Gold Coast and we spent 6 months on the road working, traveling, and it was the most amazing experience for those 6 months. We've traveled to places all up the East Coast that I probably would never have seen had I not had the ability to jump in the van and travel. But during that time, I probably, if I'm honest, at the end was getting to a point where working on the road was getting a bit tiresome. And this is where I'll sort of share the not the so glamorous parts of it, right? So we don't stealth camp. Some people do. I like to feel safe. So we stay in campsites and, you know, there's certain points where you go, oh, I'd rather just have my own shower and bathroom today, right? So that's kind of like point number one. You are sharing facilities with other people. Totally fine. Didn't bother me in the beginning, but towards the end, I was like, I just kind of want to wake up and have my own space in the morning. The second one is obviously you are literally living in a tiny space. So you have got to have a good relationship with the person that you're sharing with if you're doing it as a couple. Now, gratefully, me and my husband get on very, very well. And that was never an issue. But there were certainly still times when I knew I probably wanted a bit of my own space and I know he felt the same way. You're sort of on top of each other all the time. So there comes a level of self-awareness, you know, just honoring each other's space sometimes, which is hard to do when you're living and working in such a small space. And then the worst part of it all, I guess, is when the weather turns. So when it's sunny outside and you can put the awning up and you can sit outside and work outside, it's amazing. It's amazing. You know, sitting in the winter sun in Queensland, you just can't beat it. But the days where it does rain, it can be an absolute nightmare. Plus we have a dog, so he gets absolutely drenched. There's nowhere to put him. So we're literally just like sitting in a van. It's pouring with rain outside with a wet dog and everything's just getting soaked and muddy. It's not fun on those days, trust me. But again, being someone who's quite resilient and somebody that's probably doesn't let these sort of things bother her and always, I guess, leans more into the gratitude, it doesn't bother me too much. But I just want to be honest with you, like on those days, it's easy to question, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? And then the other thing is how I guess our van is set up is that we have a table that goes up and down. So it turns into a bed at night and a working space in the day. And you're constantly having to make the bed every day. So that's another struggle. We don't have the nice, you know, comforts of home, like a dishwasher. So you're constantly washing up. And it's just a few things to be aware of before you do it. So my advice, if you're somebody thinking, this looks cool, I want to give that a go, hire a van first. Hire a van for, you know, a couple of weeks, drive it around, take it places, and just get the experience of what it actually is like. I think that's just really solid advice, especially if you're somebody that likes structure and likes a bit of a routine. Like I do like structure and routine, and I find from doing this now on and off for the last few years, my husband and I, we can get into a really good routine when we're on the road, and you kind of have to, otherwise it's so easy to just procrastinate. It's so easy to get distracted, especially on a nice warm day. Like I was just sat outside then in the sun, eating my breakfast. I knew I've got a full day today. I've got an afternoon of meetings. I wanted to get this podcast done, but it would have been so easy if I didn't have the discipline to sit in the sun all morning, because it's just such a lovely feeling with that vitamin D coming into you. So you've got to have the discipline. I would advise going and experiencing it first, seeing, okay, can I do this? Can I work? Is this something that would be enjoyable? And if the answer is yes, then it's all about having a clear plan. Okay, so if I want to do this, does my current employer enable me to do this? Could I get could I negotiate some time to work remotely for a bit? Is that on the cards? And if it's not, you have a choice to make. You either stay where you are in your current business and you work hard, you acquire skills, you make sure that people know, who you are, you get that promotion. And then once you have established yourself in the organization, you're building your brand, you're putting yourself out on the LinkedIn, then you can start thinking, okay, next move for me, next career move is going to be in a business that offers that flexibility, that offers that remote work. Or am I going to be really brave and really take a risk and potentially go and start something on my own? And that's, again, a whole other conversation in itself. But yeah, I think that's super, super key. Things don't just happen overnight. We do live in a world where I think people just want that instant success, that instant gratification, that instant, I want to do that and I want to do that tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. It starts with an idea and then it's all about the execution. But that all starts when you have a clear plan, you understand who you are and what matters to you. Because the key piece, I guess, that I've come to realize in my own life, and maybe why dollops of van life really are good for me and my soul, is I do have these quite two extremes. And I've spoken about this on the podcast before. And for those of you that are new here, welcome. You're about to get to know me a bit better now. But I have these two extremes. One of them is, let's call her CEO Georgie. She is ambitious, she's hungry, she's driven, she wants to make impact in the world, grow a great business, start a great business, write books and all that good stuff. But I've also got this other Georgie who's a bit more of like a hippie Georgie. This Georgie wants to have slow mornings, sip her coffee in the sun, walk barefoot on the beach, ride her bikes and listen to the birds and sit in the sun and let the vitamin D soak into my pores, right? And what I've come to realize is that life is not about or. I don't have to choose one or the other. I can have both. So what I've come to do in my life is really design the year around honoring both parts of me. And I guess life comes in seasons, and within those seasons, there are different chapters. So I'm about to go into a season of a lot of growth, a lot of work. I'm launching a book, I'm launching a SaaS product, and I've still got my recruitment business. So I know it's going to require a different level of me. But at the same time, I don't need to neglect this other part of me, that this free spirit, this hippie Georgie that enjoys the slower mornings, the nature and the bit more of the flow of life as opposed to the hustle and the work. And what I've done in my own life and my own sort of designing my own life is try and set my environment up to help me succeed in what I want to do. So as an example, I'm finishing The Bold Move, which is my book that's coming out in November. And that's a really creative work project. So at the moment, living and working on the road and having nature surrounding me and having those sort of slower mornings again really nicely correlates to finishing the book. But when the book comes to almost be launched, I know that then my environment is going to conflict with the energy I'm going to need to launch the book and sell the book and market the book. So in that scenario, I will be back in Melbourne, and a bit of an update coming, which I'll share later on in the podcast of where I'm going to be for that. But I know that my environment needs to be setting me up for success during that time. So my point is that we don't live in a world of black and white. We live in a world of grey. We live in the world of and. And I do believe that if you can set your life up to honor different parts of you, different values that you have. So mine are health, freedom, and growth. That's an amazing life. That to me is a life of success. So that is just such a key message. And if that might really resonate with you today, or it might not make sense, then that's okay. It's like, depends on, I guess, where you are in your own journey, your own life. You might be somebody that's absolutely loving your corporate career, loving going into the office every day. And maybe health and freedom and growth isn't your top value. Maybe it's stability. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's, career and progression of finance, right? And it's honoring that. You don't chase somebody else's version of success. Get clear on what yours is. So I guess to round off today's episode and to really, I guess, make this tangible for you, thinking about what I've learned over the last 4 years of doing this, is that the first thing, like I said, is clarity. Get clear on what you want and design your life around that. But also understand that as you do that, nothing is going to come quickly. Nothing's going to come easy. You have to be prepared to do the work, put in the hours, take the risks, perhaps make a few sacrifices in the interim before you get to the level where you can make that leap. If you want to start thinking about doing something like working on the road, doing van life and things like that, hire a van first. Don't just jump into a van, do it up, spend all that money to then maybe realize, actually, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Because it's not for everyone. Like I said, there are definitely days in the sort of couple of months that I'm up here that I go, this is tough. This is hard. Like the internet, like we have got really good internet. We use Starlink, which is another key thing I want to say. If you are somebody that's thinking about working on the road, you must have good internet. When we first did this a number of years back, we didn't have Starlink and it was a nightmare, especially if we were places that were slightly off grid. I couldn't get on the internet, and that's okay if you just want to go and have a nice relaxing experience. But when you're actually trying to run a business or you're trying to continue working and doing well in your career, internet and good Wi-Fi is an absolute must. So Starlink, can't beat it. It's amazing. So that's really, really key, but it is worth it if you decide to do this. It will honestly be the best experience, but it isn't for everyone, like I said, and it just depends on where you are in your life and your career. Like if you're early on in your life and your career, I think that the best thing for you is to be in an office, is to be with your co-workers and to be learning. I certainly wouldn't be able to have done half the things I've done if I didn't spend the first 6-7 years of my career learning from other people who are more senior than me. And the best place to do that is in an office environment. So I do think that that was really, really crucial part of my development. But if you know that eventually one day you'd like to run your own business, or one day you'd like to have a career where you can travel a bit with it and take that sort of remote work, then it's good to know that. And it's good to start planning your life and your career and your decisions that way. Because I do see far too many people saying to me, oh, I'd love to do that. And then they've got all the excuses of why they can't do it, as opposed to thinking about all the ways that they could make it happen. So it's just a mindset shift. Okay. So if you want to do this, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do this week? What do I need to do this year, this next 2 years, 3 years, to ensure that one day, and there is going to be a one day, it's not going to be some pie in the sky, never going to happen. You can do it. You can absolutely follow that dream and follow that path. But if you're listening to this right now and you have any questions about living in the van and the setup and how I've gone, what's sort of been happening when I've been on the road, how I balance business, book, all that kind of thing, reach out to me. I am so more than happy to answer any of your questions. But I will be in Queensland until middle of September. So that's really exciting. So we've got another sort of 6 weeks left of working on the road. I'm just going to embrace it. My book is almost there now. God, it has been a lot of work, a lot of amazing work, but I've gone back and forth with the editing team over the last couple of weeks, and just really trying to think about all the things I want in the book, how I can make it as valuable as possible, strategic as possible, like literally thinking if someone's going to read this book, what do I want them to walk away with? What's the one lesson I want them to learn? What's the one piece of advice I can give them that's going to make all the difference in their career? So more updates on the book to come. And if you haven't yet signed up to be on the early access to Pivotr, please make sure you do that. We are going to be launching really, really soon. The product is coming along so well. We're working with such an amazing developer. He's just incredible. So it's looking amazing, and it's going to be very, very close to launch. So if you want to be the first to test that, trial that, please sign up, because we're going to do a really, really good and fair entry sort of price point as well. So the first 100 people that get to use that product will get the subscription for a really fair and reasonable price. And then as we iterate, as we grow, as we add more features and tools, obviously the price will change. So make sure if you want to be part of that early access, you pop your name on the list, because we will only have limited spots available. But that is all my updates today. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. Thank you so much for reaching out and telling me your goals and your ambitions and your dreams. And I'll leave you with this. I truly believe anything is possible. I really, really do believe that. If you have a goal, if you have a dream, if you want to do something with your life, you have to do it. Because the biggest fear of mine is getting to the end of my life and having regret. That scares me far more than thinking, oh, what if I fail? Or what if I this? Or what if this? Like, I don't want to wake up one day and go, I wish I'd done that. That is petrifying to me. So if you want to do something with your life, whatever it is, you can do it. I genuinely believe every single person on this planet has the ability to follow their dreams and make things happen. But it all starts with getting clear on what you want, who you are, what matters most to you, and then taking the right steps in the right direction to get to that end point. And that is definitely where Pivotr can help. That's definitely where my book can help you, because there is a bit of a transformation that needs to happen, a bit of reinvention, a bit of clarity, a bit of a plan that needs to happen in order to really see a goal from idea to execution to the outcome that you want. But if you want to see more of what life is really like on the road, follow me on Instagram, Georgie L. Hubbard, on LinkedIn, and I'm also on TikTok as well. So that's, and YouTube. So I'm everywhere at the moment. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, it's an absolute honor speaking with you. And if you want to do something for me, if you do enjoy these episodes, please just give it a quick rating, and it all helps to boost the podcast and hopefully help more people. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will speak to you again very soon. Take care.